Today, I'm going to use Claude Code to automate the creation of a local newsletter. This includes research, figuring out what content buckets to write, and the creation of a style guide. In fact, I'm going to take it one step up. My goal today is to automate an edition of the Catskill Crew, a local newsletter in the Catskills region of New York, run by my buddy Michael Kaufman, who is one of the best people in this business. He doesn't know I'm doing this, and even I don't have a clear idea of how I'm going to do this, but let's see if I can make it happen, and I think you guys are going to be surprised by the results. Alright, so I've got a clean terminal here in which I'm going to start up Claude Code. I always open it in dangerous mode because I like to live dangerously. And let me show you how I would go about thinking of tackling this problem. And so, what I usually do when I'm approaching some new task in Claude Code is I always do things in plan mode first. And so I have a special plan mode here, which is basically going to allow me then now to describe the task that I want to do. And then Claude is going to create a plan of how to execute it. Now, the second thing I do, differently from a lot of people, is I speak my instructions into the terminal. So I'm going to do just that right now. My goal is to create an edition of the Catskill Crew, a local newsletter in the Catskills region of New York. Let me just Catskill. I want to automate the creation of content, let's say for the next week. But I also want to copy the style of the newsletter, so I imagine this sort of being a tiered process. And I want to do this in a way that makes it reproducible. So I want to create Claude skills in this repo, which will help me automate lots of this process going into the future. And so one of the things I have in mind is that maybe we have an event research skill in which we look up, let's say, different Instagram profiles or, let's say, Facebook pages or Eventbrite pages that the Catskill Crew seems to use for its local newsletter research, local newsletter creation. And what I think we'll have to do for this is to use at least a few API endpoints. So one of those will be the Scrape Creators Instagram API endpoint, which you can read about here. Also, we will probably want to use OpenAI's own API endpoint with an OpenAI API key in order to potentially extract information from images. But actually, maybe that's not necessary, because if we just download the images, then you should be able to get it yourself. And in fact, maybe even scrape creators isn't necessary, because maybe you could reverse engineer how to download like Instagram posts, and then like Claude Code has the ability, right, to analyze images. So maybe you would just be able to do that yourself. And so that's one part of what we need to do. But another part, like a preliminary part, is maybe like I sort of see us having two sets of skills, like a research skill and then a writing skill. Because research is much more comprehensive. Like there's lots of different information that we could include, but then we have, let's say, a style guide and that we may want to use for actually writing the section, and we're going to probably want to define style guides and research guides for different content buckets, which we will establish by first taking a look at editions of the Catskill crew, which you should be able to access with the Firecrawl MCP server. And so create a plan for approaching all of this, and then let me know if you need my input. All right. So now I'm getting this process started. You can see here in the terminal that it says it's launching parallel research agents while also fetching the newsletter directly. Another thing that you'll see here is that I've got these sort of agents prefixed with compound engineering. So I use a plugin called Compound Engineering created by an organization called Every, which is really on the cutting edge of use of coding agents. And it's from them that and so I installed their plugin, which sort of has an optimized version of a workflow that I had always sort of used, which was to make a plan first and then execute on this plan. But with Claude Code, one of the nice things is that unlike Codex and maybe unlike Cursor, I'm not sure, you can call sub agents. So you can have an agent which you can just sort of vaguely, if you're unfamiliar with this, think of as like an independent AI doing its own thing. You can have an agent which is doing some sort of specialized task, like for a set of things that you need done. So right now we can see that it's with Firecrawl pulling the Catskill crew with another tool. It's looking at the documentation of this tool that I thought might be useful for scraping Instagram, because a lot of the events that are of interest in the local newsletter come from Instagram. And finally, one piece that I haven't explained yet is this notion of a Claude skill. So Claude Code has developed a concept of skills, which are sort of set, just markdown, typically instruction files that Claude Code can put into its context when it needs to do a specialized skill, a specialized task. And these skills basically allow it to do that task efficiently. So a lot of you maybe have used ChatGPT in a web browser, and or at least early on, there was this problem of hallucination, right? That like ChatGPT would just confidently make an answer when there was no answer there. And so what Claude skills allow is sort of preventing quote unquote hallucinations of a sort, of a different kind, where maybe if Claude Code is coming to a particular kind of task for the first time, it may have a lot of weird tools that it decides to use. Like maybe it tries to um, look at one database, or if you have it set up with both like MailChimp and Beehive, let's say, connected to Claude Code, maybe it goes to MailChimp when it should be going to Beehive. So you can set all sorts of little task-based automations up in the context of a Claude skill. And how I'm thinking, like the sort of local newsletter creation process is, both from a human's perspective and from an AI's perspective, is that first you have to do this research task. And then if we have like research compiled and we have instructions of a particular kind of style in which the different sections have to be written, then the AI should be able to get pretty close to writing a newsletter edition. And even if we don't get it right the first time, like it sounds too AI-y, we don't like how it writes, we could maybe create a skill where that new skill has like a style guide of like use these kinds of words, use this kind of tone, etc. And we can iterate on it and we'll get better over time. So right now, I'm just letting like this thing do its thing. I have access to a service called Firecrawl, which is very nice for AIs like LLMs to get um, data from websites in the form of Markdown rather than HTML, which is much easier for both them and us to comprehend. So I'm letting it doing its thing. Uh, Let me see. It's reading. Okay, it ran out of context. So that is something that I may have been able to anticipate. I didn't really think about, but I see why it happened. So it ran out of context reading the documentation of scrape creators, which is very poorly optimized for the yeah, it's very poorly optimized. Like it has a lot of tokens. So let me think about a way to improve that. Let me see. I think they've got like an LLM. I'm looking to see if he's got some documentation here that's more optimized for LLMs to be able to understand the code. I think what is this? LLM ready prompts. Mhm. Yeah. Let me tell it that don't go to scrape creators directly with Firecrawl MCP. It's very token heavy. These two endpoints are the only ones. These three endpoints are the only ones which potentially we may want to use. Alright, so let's see if it creates this plan. And now we wait. Alright, so it went ahead and started creating this Python module already. I kind of wanted it to make that plan first. Might ask it to do this again. Oh, okay, it's fine. So it knows that I still want to do the newsletter automation plan. Let's say this. No, not yet. I want you to make sure it runs in a virtual environment managed by UV. And I want you to create a Claude skill for use of this tool. And then I want you to do an initial git commit. I want you to put the plans directory in a git ignore. I also want you to have .env in git ignore. And then I'll add a scrape creators API key to the .env. And then I want you to get back to the newsletter automation plan. Okay, so because it reached the compaction point, it kind of went and did like some stuff that I didn't want done yet, but it should be fine. So now it is creating a Claude skill for using scrape creators to do Instagram research. And then I'm going to make an initial commit of this repo. Let me take a look at the structure a bit, make it bigger for you guys so you can see it's created this big ass API client for grabbing Instagram data from Instagram. Very good. And now it is creating the plan. All right, so it has created the plan. Let's take a look at what it says. So I'm going to open the full plan here, and we can kind of look through it together. Okay, automate the creation of a Catskills crew style local newsletter. Yep, very time intensive. And so it's identified the main content buckets here, like what sort of goes into it. Writing style from my friends. Let's get into it. Direct address to reader, enthusiasm without being over the top, local knowledge and insider references, short, punchy sentences for events. This is the event listing format. The technical architecture it sort of has in mind is to have research skills and then writing skills. So that's basically it went with what I suggested. It's got a diagram here to show how it all works together. These are the different phases. Yeah. Very good. So let's see. Now it's given me a few choices of like what to do next, right? Can review the plan in the editor. Could just start on phase one. Could test out the scrape creators client. Let's start on phase one. I don't even know what phase one is, but I want to get started. So let's just start. No, whoa. I was so amazed that I almost fell over. Um, yeah. I'm kind of just curious how it's going to do this. Like, how is it going to think about what are the good events to look at? So it's doing like some research on IAG. Gonna go look at the Catskill crew itself. I don't know, find some events and shit. No idea. All right, so found some great sources. Let me create the Instagram sources list. All right, do your thing, dog. I'm just gonna be chilling here, looking at Twitter and seeing who's liked my posts. Oh, look at that. So it found some sources. The Avalon Lounge. Michael Kaufman. What do you think about that? The Avalon Lounge. Is that a top tier source? Going to Eventbrite now. Meanwhile, I'm just here on my phone looking at Twitter. All you guys sitting around typing in the beehive. Just got to keep Claude coding. All right. So now it's like fucking scraping Eventbrite according to some uh, parameters, a 30-mile radius of Catskill, New York. Sounds good to me. Do your thing. So it looks like it is even like creating some sort of database in which to store the events information. All right, go ahead. Yeah, you do that. Um, that's not how I had in mind at doing things, but I don't trust myself anymore. Claude Code is smarter than me. Oh, now it's creating a test scraper to test if it actually works. Now it's running the test scraper. All right, let's see how it goes. Do. Test profile fetch. That worked apparently. All right, phase one is complete. I don't even know what phase one was, but that's cool. Phase one is complete. All right, let's get serious here. You're going to start seriously committing things to Git. Okay. How do I make this smaller? Yeah. All right. So we got some venues, some promoters, different aggregator sites. We were able to scrape posts with captions, likes, and comments. So I actually, so one option is it can now go to the stage where it creates like standardized research methodologies. Another is to find more Instagram accounts. I think I wanted to find more IG accounts, but first I have another question. I have another question. Are you going to be able to analyze like the images if the images happen to be useful for like if the actual sort of image has text, for example, which describes an event, will you be able to parse that? Like obviously that only makes sense for posts whose metadata seems to indicate that there is something event related, but I'm wondering if, you yourself have the image recognition capabilities to be able to get stuff out of the actual image. That would be cool, right? If it was true, let's find out. Look at that. Would you look at that? All right. So look at this. It's caption, image URL. Okay. And then yeah. So I was able to download this image. So, okay, it's saying that will work. The workflow would be fetch post, check the caption, if promising, download the image, analyze the image, combine caption plus image. Muito bom. I'm going to Brazil. Muito bom. All right. Um, let's build. Yeah. I want you to build it. Of course. Of course, homeboy or homegirl. We are gender agnostic in this place. Faux shizzle. Ha! Love it. Let's build this out. Look at that. Claude thinks I'm funny. Isn't that amazing? All right. It's not amazing because I am funny. All right. Creating event extraction with image analysis. So now, I don't know. You just do your thing. I'm going to go back on my phone. Might go do some work. Who knows? All right. So it built a script, which I guess builds on the other ones, specifically for extracting events. Now it's running it and testing it. All right, let's see how that worked. Nice. So it looks like it found some event here. Cool. So a full week of events. Now it's creating a skill to basically document this process. And all right, let me get serious here. So here you can kind of see this bit here. It says context left until auto-compact. So one aspect of large language models is that if you throw a lot of shit at them, then eventually their performance degrades and eventually it gets there's just limits, right? You can't give it like too many things in its context. So what's going on here is Claude Code, once you hit some point, it'll do what's called auto-compaction, meaning it'll kind of give um, itself a summary of everything that was discussed recently and like just the most important stuff to be able to continue working on to the next session. So like now we're at 5%. It's continuing to do testing on like other important IG accounts, but yeah, seems to be working pretty well. So let's let it keep going. Honestly, maybe I should just not publish this publicly and like make my own spam newsletter like that one dude. Who's that guy? AI local newsletter. This guy. Good Daily. Should I just not publish this video and make my own Good Daily? What do I call it? Good Panchwani? Bad Panchwani. Bad Daily. No. The key is, all right, whatever. I won't do it. I'm a nice guy. Very nice guy. All right. Image analysis is working great. Let's just go straight to the writing skills. I have a question though. Do we have like research skills for all the different content buckets? I know some of them don't really make sense to have research skills for the Catskill crew because like, well, maybe like weather. It could make sense to have a weather research skill, right? But like if he's making updates about his product, obviously for this POC, I can't copy that. We could sort of copy the style and then just, for the purposes of this exercise, make up a fake product update, something like that. But I just want to make sure I understand these phases correctly and that like we're genuinely done in phase 2 with all the research stuff, or like was the research stuff also in phase 3? Oh my god, I keep falling down. Okay, so you see it's like it says context left until auto-compact 1%. So okay, actually, let's see this. Great question. Let me clarify the phases and what's left. A research skill needed. Got a little bit cut off. Whatever. Fake product update, newsletter assembler. Oh, so that one's nice. There's like a one to sort of like put it all together. Yeah, you can build it now. Just make up like a but I don't want to use any API keys. So um like I don't know, air now, could you maybe, or like for the air quality and like fire danger, maybe you can find a website to do these sunrise, sunset, moon phase, air quality, fire danger, and then just use Firecrawl. Or if there's like a free API that you can reverse engineer, that's great too. But see how far you can get with Firecrawl. I just don't want to bother with getting another API key for now. All right, so let's see how that goes. All right, so now it's going to reach this context left until auto-compact 0%, right? So eventually it's going to run out. Yeah, so now it's compacting the conversation as I predicted. And then, like in the old history of coding agents, you wouldn't want to do auto compaction because the compaction was kind of trash. So you would want to figure out a way to just summarize stuff yourself, or even ask it with your own sort of like once you hit that point, just ask it to do compaction according to your own query. But recently, auto compaction has gotten really good, especially with Claude Code. And so it pretty reliably, after going through this compaction process, will just keep on like starting up right from where it left off. Like I've had no problems. It's great. So we just wait again. And like this process is going pretty quick. It's not the fastest, but it's pretty quick. And one very nice thing about it is that it's low effort, right? Like I understand programming, probably some stuff that a lot of you guys don't. But like literally I'm just fucking talking into the microphone, like saying some bullshit, and then it just does it. And even if you didn't know stuff that like I like to do, like have virtual environments and like use Git and stuff like that, you could just like say some bullshit into the microphone and get out good results. Like it's amazing. All right. So it's finding some pages that work for this, other ones that don't. And then like sometimes I interrupt. Yeah, like maybe you can look up other cities close to the Catskills. Like Catskill is a city in New York, right? That can be kind of confusing. But like this Catskills Crew newsletter, it covers the Catskills region in general. All right, so it found like some, I don't know, weather data for Poughkeepsie or some shit, like which I guess is going to be reliable for the Catskills region. All right. So now it's creating a script to automate this weather stuff. But then it will also create a skill which basically teaches a future instance of Claude Code to use that script when you want to do this, whatever, weather, climate, moon phase research. All right, so it created a script to get these conditions, created a skill to teach future instances of itself to get those conditions. All right, so now it's going to move on to phase 3. Let's go on to phase 3. I'm going to get some coffee. I'm going to let it just keep doing its thing. All right, I'm back. What are we doing? Okay, good. I wanted to do that. Just looking at the actual Catskill Crew website to analyze its voice and style. That was my instruction. Creating a style guide. Oh, let's read the style guide. This will be funny. What does AI think Michael's voice is? A friendly local who genuinely loves the Catskills, knows everyone, and is excited to share what's happening. Think of a well-connected neighbor who always has the inside scoop, casual, warm, enthusiastic, but not over the top, insidery, audience, locals, weekenders, and wanderers, mix of full-time Catskills residents and NYC Hudson Valley folks with second homes or frequent visits. All right. I'll see you out there. I appreciate any and all, but enough preamble, casual language, yeah, instead of you. Hop to it. Got the events down, like how to do that. Local knowledge, references landmarks and venues casually. Enthusiasm without excess. Yeah, very good. All right, so it's creating different skills. All right, so it's created skills for like each section of the newsletter. Obviously, I can't write the bulletin part like myself, or we can't write that because we don't know who the sponsors are, but we'll be able to just make some up. Okay, so created like all the infrastructure here for being able to do this in a reproducible way. But one thing which is let me see. So I'm not imagining this like being done. So I'm not imagining this being done like with an orchestration script necessarily, but instead it should be, a series of Claude skills that um, would allow me to just create a new newsletter edition just by talking. So part of my question is are all these skills that like we've created real skills, or are they just like sort of skills, like proper in Claude skills, or proper in Claude Code skills? Okay, so what I'm doing here is that it seems to be thinking that what I want is like a script to be able to run this whole thing end to end. But instead, what I want to do is extend Claude Code in such a way that like I can sort of have a conversation with it and just create a newsletter in the style that I want out of that conversation. But one of the things that I wanted to establish is that we are creating all these skills to be able to do parts of the research or the writing process. And I want to make sure that they are formatted correctly in the way that Claude Code expects a skill to be formatted, because if they're not, it can't use them as effectively. And so we just reached another compaction point, but let's see if it continues on. Let me just see. Are all these skills like formatted properly, just like Claude skills need to be formatted? All right. So I have this kind of it's a skill to create skills. And so that's what it's doing now is it's evaluating whether these skills are correctly created or not. Yeah. So I thought that they weren't correctly created, and now yes, but also I want you to like assess in sort of the context of the goals of this whole repository whether these skills are properly created and conceived. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. I have 6 skills right now, and what it's suggesting is creating 1 to 2 skills with clear workflows. Now let's do 2 skills because the voice is not relevant for the. All right, so it's restructuring it to be properly created skills, and then also having a distinct research skill with sort of its own branching workflows, and then a writer skill with its own workflows. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So again, this is like kind of long. This whole process has been a little bit long, but once we are done with all of this, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Like creating new newsletters in the future. All right, let's go look at some of these skills while it's in process. Um, all right, so it's kind of teaching how to research events. It's teaching to download, analyze and download images, even do deduplication of events, enrichment, and just save it out. It's pretty good. So here's how to do the conditions research. Okay. Here's like a bunch of the event venues that we're going to look at regularly. Yeah, cool. This is the schema of an event object that it's kind of like going to parse out. And I don't know if it puts it in a database. No, it just keeps it in a JSON. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and this is how it gets the environmental sources and structures that. Yeah, cool. So that's the research skill. And then there's a writer skill. So this is the voice. And then this is how you write happenings. Mm-hmm. This is how it wants it to write the report. And writing the bulletin. Okay, so it's cleaning up everything that was in here. So now we just have the Catskill research and Catskill writer skills. Yep. Nice. Okay, there's one more thing I want to do. I want to do one more thing. I want to have like a skill after we've written it. This is like I just want to create a web page that like is, let's say, an HTML file that I can open, which follows the Catskill crew theme. So I want you to basically go to the website, steal everything you can about its design, maybe use Playwright MCP to open it up and like actually look at the website, but I want you to steal everything, like little elements to separate sections or fonts and stuff, so that after we go through the research and the writer skill, I can even have like another step that shows us how it all looks. All right, this one's taking a little while. We're like 4 minutes in and still thinking about how to properly make the website. Yep. All right, so it's come up with a plan. So we have research and writing created. Now I'm going to look at this newsletter automation plan. Or no, the HTML preview skill. You may need to also download images and fonts. Okay, the plan is updated. Start implementing. Yeah, let's scrape the site first. So it took a screenshot, it's extracting the design. All right, it compacted and is back to implementing this cat skill preview skill. All right, so looks like it found the different dividers that Michael uses: eagle, deer, bear, fish, owl, snake. It's got the whole design system specified. It's going to create an HTML template. Cool. So we've made the preview skill as well. Let's test out the whole process. We'll see how it works. Awesome. So let's do this. I'm going to start a new Claude session. Say research. I want you to do the research for a new edition of the Catskill Crew for the weekend. So for tomorrow, it'll go out tomorrow, and it should include like events and happenings or whatever the research skill tags has for Friday, December 12th, Saturday. I want you to research a new edition of the Catskill Crew for this weekend. I want you to research a new edition of the Catskill Crew for this weekend. All right, so we've done some research. Got 11 events for this weekend. Have we finished the research process? Okay, got everything. Now let's write the newsletter. All right, we've got the newsletter, and let's do a preview. All right, the preview is complete. Let me ask it to open it up again. I closed it accidentally. Can you open it up again? Not bad. See, it's not perfect, right? Like there's things we could improve, but obviously there's a process here off which we can kind of build things to get better results in the future. And so I'm pretty happy with this. Very proud of myself. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more about how to make these workflows, like and subscribe this video. Thank you.